From Studio 1A in Tampa, Florida, comes a talk show that really feels your pain and tells you like it is. We love America and all that freedom-loving Americans want to protect. Live from coast to coast and on your radio, it's For the People with Keith Allen.
We'll help you survive this thing called life. We're for the people. Whatever your source of stress or strife, for the people is there.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Keith Allen and For the People. You're joining us on a Thursday, September the 21st, 2017, and I have my coffee ready to go, and I am definitely feeling a whole lot better. I had some flu symptoms after Hurricane Irma, and today I feel terrific because the last 4 days, just been a little out of kilter, and I did not get my flu shot. I had a few friends say, why didn't you get the flu shot? I never get the flu shot. It's not like I want to get the flu, but I hear people that get the flu shot, and they still get the flu. So I'm like, what's the point of getting the flu shot? Now, yeah, I probably didn't get one of the worst flus out there. Maybe that's what they're trying to protect you because there's so many different strains of the flu from what I understand. So the flu shot, from the way I understand it, from the way doctors tout it, is the worst strains of the flu. So I had one that 3 or 4 days, the chills, the stuffy nose, runny nose, not wanting to get out of bed. Yeah. So anyways, feeling good today. And I tell you, I feel a little guilty today. You ever have those days where you just feel guilty when you turn on the news and you see the devastation, say, like in Puerto Rico, where the strongest hurricane, in fact, to hit Puerto Rico, from what I understand, for 80 years, and has literally destroyed more homes, knocked out power across the entire island, and turned many of the streets that I've walked down, and I have visited. I have family in Puerto Rico by marriage, but their family, nevertheless, you know how it goes. Leaving at least 9 people dead in its wake across the Caribbean. The winds were unbelievable. We can't get a hold of anybody that we know there on the island. And we know quite a bit of folks. My wife grew up there. But they're my extended family. They're my family. And they've always had the door wide open. And one thing, I will tell you this. I came from some of you may not know this. I seem so well put together. But I came from a broken family. My parents divorced quite early. And we went different places. And it was just very special to see how the Spanish culture, it's not every, Spanish home that is family-oriented, but a lot of them are, more often than not. They may have some dysfunction. What family doesn't have dysfunction? But they opened their doors, their casa, if you will, to me, and were amazing to my daughter and my stepdaughters. Incredible. Seriously, I mean, it's just to receive that love, and they would do anything for you. That kind of thing. I mean, that's just priceless. I mean, it just lives within you. And when you find that you have that something special, I mean, man, it's beautiful, and it's painful to not be able to. And I'm sure a lot of these folks are fine, but we just want to make sure they're fine, if you know what I mean. Because anything could happen in a storm. I mean, water finds places, gets into places, trees go flying. I mean, you saw in San Juan, if you didn't see on social media, huge chunks of building just coming off. And you got over 100-mile-per-hour wind coming at you at Cat 4. Man, things are going to get damaged. And cell towers twisted. It's a wonder that some of the radio stations, because of their towers being up so high, with running their wiring up the tower, that they were able to withstand. I guess they build them that way. The broadcast towers, I guess, much more sturdy than cell phone towers. Maybe the cell phone tower companies need to take note. I would imagine that there were probably some stations there in Puerto Rico that probably got some damage due to the wind or whatever. It had to have been. But some stations were managed to stay on. They had generators, and I would hope propane. That would probably be the smartest, or diesel. But were able to inform their listeners as to what was going on, or give them a platform until they lost cell service or landlines to be able to call in to just comfort people, to let them know everything was going to be okay, to tell people to not go out exploring, not to be traveling, and just a lifeline, if you will. And the radio does that. It's there's a great place, and I think there will always be a place for radio. As people say, it's dying because everybody's listening to podcasts. There's the internet. The radio will always be a very important place in the vehicle. I hope there is a resurgence of it where people just really dig it, But I know the NAB is working really hard to try to get more people to be listening. But there's no place like the radio, man. I love it. Grew up with it, and here I am talking on it. It's a beautiful thing. The governor of Puerto Rico, Abner Gomez, he was warning, folks not to go out, not to go outside right now, going exploring. And there's a curfew from 6A or 6P to 6A. They're just encouraging people, don't go outside. We're going to find our island destroyed. This is Abner Gomez, Puerto Rico's. Yeah, he's the emergency management director. Forgive me, he's not the governor. He says that information we have received is not encouraging. It's destroyed everything in its path. And this is what Puerto Ricans are waking up to this morning. And so many live over here and going through the same thing we're going through. Information blackout. But widespread flooding reported with dozens of cars submerged in some neighborhoods, many streets turned into rivers. People calling, like I said, the local radio station reports that doors were being torn off their hinges and a water tank flew away. A water tank, folks, flew away from one town. Unreal. All right, the governor, Ricardo Rossello, he imposed the curfew 6P to 6A. It was right. Daily until Saturday to allow rescue crews. This is the main reason. And for people not to get hurt. He says we're at a critical moment at the effort, making an effort right now to help thousands of Puerto Ricans that urgently need aid and to assess the great damage caused by the hurricane. Rossello said in an interview on CNN's Anderson Cooper 360 that once one fatality has been reported because communications were knocked out in some areas. The total casualty count wasn't known, and they expect, unfortunately, the death toll to rise there on the island of Puerto Rico. The storm that just went through there weakened to a Cat 3, but later in the day re-strengthened back to a Cat 3 and couldn't intensify even further. If there's any good news in all of this bad news, is Irma actually was a blessing in disguise, according to meteorologists this morning. From what I'm learning, had it not been for Irma, Maria would have done what Irma was supposed to do to Florida. So if there's any good news here, but who took the brunt of it? Puerto Rico. You say, hey, we're so lucky. That's why I say feel guilty. Them, us, it could have been us. But what can we do? So many relief organizations. AmeriCorps, I think, does a terrific job. Carl Higbee is leading it up. And, man, with all the devastation, Carl, in Texas, in the Keys and stuff like that, to be able to manage all of this, it must be tough, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, we have to prioritize it, and right now, we're just getting our main forces into Texas right now after the initial life saving and getting people, to areas where they could be sustainable. So, I mean, we prioritize this right now, and AmeriCorps is very well equipped to handle with one of these disasters. But when you stack 2, 3, and more on top of it, it becomes to stretch our resources thin. Mm-hmm. So, one thing right now we're doing, it costs us about $1.2 million to put 100 people in a disaster area for 1 year, which if you were to have a paid labor force, it would cost 10, 15 times that much. So, I would ask people, corporate donations and things like that, to go to nationalservice.gov and help us fund more teams like this. We can get people in, train them, equip them, house them, put them in place for just over $1 million a year for 100 people. That's the best return on investment.
The governor is urging people to have faith, just like people in the Keys and people in Texas. Literally lost everything. The governor is urging people to have faith. He says, we are stronger than any hurricane. Together, we will rebuild. And Donald Trump, after the governor asked President Donald Trump, as he put it, to declare the island a disaster area, there was a hashtag, Puerto Rican Strong. And that came from the president. And he's committed, and he was asked by a barrage of news reporters various questions, but one was, will you visit Puerto Rico? And he said, in fact, he will, and I'm sure he will be there to see it firsthand of what's going on. But there is just such widespread, just disastrous, material, building material, houses, just everything you can imagine, just strewn all over. And they're just trying to assess right now. And, Puerto Rico has been struggling to restructure a portion of its $73 billion debt. And the government has warned it's running out of money as it fights against furloughs and other measures imposed by a federal board overseeing the island's finances, according to one report. But federal money will be assigned to help out with the relief efforts here. Carl Higbee, how can people get involved? I know there's a lot of people, not doing a whole lot and might have some time available. What do you recommend?
Yeah, so like I said, you can go to nationalservice.gov. And if you're, sitting in your parents' basement in a beanbag eating Cheetos, we want you to join AmeriCorps and come get skills, get an educational grant, get some marketable skills that you can bring to the private sector afterwards and serve your country and help rebuild these communities, because we are a volunteer force that really honestly backs up FEMA, which has done a phenomenal job, the National Guard. We're in there for the long haul. The cameras are leaving. We're still there.
All right, well, thousands upon thousands of people still in shelters. More than 580 pets were in shelters. It is just mayhem over there, and people hunkered down for the worst hurricane, again, in 80 years. Waking up to that this morning, and just to think, a little week and a half ago or so, we were preparing for something that could have been just as devastating over here, and the poor folks in Puerto Rico were dealt a huge storm, but they're going to need a lot of help. And if you got time on your hands and you're a builder, you're somebody that can get something done, and you got some time, AmeriCorps is great. Samaritan's Purse, recommend them to make donations, or maybe you just physically go there to help out in some way to help folks out. And there's such a humanitarian effort right now, mobilizing to just offer people the bare necessities, making coffee. I mean, I'm lucky to have a French press, okay? So when the power went out here, I had to heat some water on the grill. But I had the French press and I had the coffee ready. A lot of people don't have those French presses over there. They're not enjoying their Cafe Bustelo, Cafe Coleches over there. I mean, as you enjoy your coffee, think about it. And that's why it's so good to have